In my research, I have tried to use the empirical case study of the global geographies of fruit grown in Chile for export to illuminate theoretical reflections about the specialities of degrowth, an academic concept as much as an activist slogan, which proposes that our human metabolism, production and consumption must be reduced in the global north, selectively, equitably and in alliance with others, for a pluriversal alternative in order to live well and sustainably. How does this empirical research contribute to this goal? I will try to explain it starting from my work in Chile. Chile is the main producer of fruit for export in the southern hemisphere. This means it produces fruit in the counter season relative to its main northern hemisphere markets. This exported fruit has a tradition that goes back to colonial times. In the modern version of exporting fresh fruit, it has been set up approximately 100 years ago and has experienced a fast growth in particular during the last decades, as for instance these maps of apple exports show. To organize this commodity geography, a large number of actors is involved. Not only companies, also the state plays a crucial role, defining the rules, providing technical assistance and distributing subsidies. Through a number of mechanisms, for instance technology required to respect the quality requirements of northern supermarket chains, this system of export influences the territories of production, favoring specialization, monocultures and unequal power relations between actors, as for instance between large export companies and small producers. This is related to a number of socio-ecological conflicts and problems around land, labor, food sovereignty. The strongest conflict is related to the use of water. While Chile is suffering from a decade-long drought induced by climate change, fruit plantations for export consume a lot of water, extracted both legally, but planning and controls are insufficient, and illegally, undermining in the most problematic case of Petorca the availability of water for inhabitants. Also, massive monocultures are established in some cases, for instance building these avocado plantations in Lleida, heavily transforming the landscape and reducing biodiversity. But not everything is the same. There are alternative practices. There are small producers that cooperate, changing the power relations with export companies and buyers, also in the logic of fair trade. There are the practices of agroecology, which ensure high levels of biodiversity in the fruit plantations. And in the case of the Mapuche community of Karl, the export of cherries to China is an element of economic diversification in a strong, actively built local economy, not a panacea for everything. To be sure, these alternative practices are small and quantitatively marginal, but they show that other forms of producing for export are possible. Together, they define guidelines for the socio-ecological transformation of such global geographies of trade and production in the vein of solidarity growth spaces. Certainly though, such transformations imply the need to abandon the ideal of unlimited growth. These alternatives could and should be scaled up, but they stop being alternatives, they stop being sustainable themselves, when they grow beyond notions of limits and equilibrium. In this sense, a degrowth transformation of such trade relations does not imply rigid forms of localism. It does not imply to simply cut all global relations of exchange. But certainly it implies a limitation of these flows, as they are part of our global social metabolism which, all data on global ecological systems clearly shows that, is now too big to be sustainable. But not only, also a qualitative transformation of these relations is important, to make them more sustainable and more solidary, more respectful of biodiversity of local economic systems, communities and workers.